Guys, look at these beautiful hash brown potatoes. This is a tutorial on the new way of making hash brown potatoes, but also the way they were done back in, let's say, 1955. Two beautiful recipes, both of them are delicious. Well, howdy folks, welcome to Texas Cooking Today. What you're watching here is a Texas Cooking Today tutorial. These are very in-depth videos on the techniques and methodology used to make any of my recipes. So anytime that you see one of my recipes that says tutorial, that's what this is. Now if you just want the recipe, you don't want the extra information, that's the previous episode, guys, so check that out if you would. This one is going to teach you everything you need to know about making this recipe. Now let's get on with it. That looks good, doesn't it? That is hash browns, okay? Now, hash browns, what are hash browns? That's where we take potatoes and make delicious with them, usually in a pan. Guys, hash browns aren't hard, but there is the hash browns that are made today, and there is the hash browns of yesterday. That's a totally different recipe. So what you order at a restaurant today in the form of hash browns is usually shredded potatoes that have been fried into something of a cake or something like that. And it's delicious. When it's done right, it is wonderful tasting. Although I can say this, had you ordered hash browns in 1955 in a diner, the experience would have been considerably different. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you both ways of making hash browns. What has become the accepted norm of today, and what was a delicious recipe of yesterday. Guys, this is all about the potato. Now before I jump in the kitchen, there is a little story I want to tell you, and this is kind of funny and you need to hear it. I was visiting my brother. He lives in another city. It's hundreds of miles from here. And I was visiting over the holidays. He takes me to a big box store, and it's one of these stores I normally don't go to because, well, I don't like the way they treat their employees and that kind of things. But anyway, we're at this store, and he says, come over this way, let me show you something. And he takes me to where they sell groceries, into the produce section. And there, sitting, is a large bin of potatoes. Now guys, it's not unusual to see potatoes in a produce section. What was unusual to me was the fact that each of the potatoes was wrapped in plastic wrap and had its own label on it. And it was labeled as baking potato. And I thought to myself, really? And then I looked at the price, how overpriced they were. They were like 5 times, 6 times more than just a bag of potatoes. Just so you'll know, if you're new to cooking, all right, and you want to bake potatoes, you don't actually have to purchase a potato that's wrapped in plastic wrap that says baking potato. Just pick up a bag of russet potatoes. That's all you got to do, okay? Baking a potato is baking a potato, and as long as you vent it and put it in there at the right temperature, it'll be fine. But anyway, that's all there is on that story. It's just, don't fall for ridiculous gimmicks. Now guys, let's get in the kitchen. Let's get busy cooking up this wonderful pair of dishes. Come on. Okay guys, here it is. We've got very, very simple ingredients. I've got 2 different kinds of fat out here. Okay, I've got some olive oil and I've got some butter. We're going to cook one way with one fat and one another way with another fat. Okay? To season both batches, I'm just going to use simple salt and pepper. All right, let's not go beyond that. And if you don't want the pepper, you can leave that out. It's kind of an integral part of the older recipe, but it's not an important part in the newer recipe. All right, for our recipe ingredients, we have potatoes and onion. All right, that's all there is to it. I have a couple of bowls, a grater, that's just a simple box grater, and a knife. So we're going to be using all of that and making very simple but delicious potato dishes. Now guys, there is a trick to this. It's not as easy as it looks on the surface. There's a couple of things you need to know. But once you get it down, you're going to be making some of the most delicious tasting hash browns you could ever imagine. Come on over. Okay guys, it's time for us to get busy prepping this dish. If you do not like skin on your potato, just use a vegetable peeler. You know, it's a very simple item. One of these guys, and just like you're whittling wood, shave off all of that skin, and that'll work fine. You can do it that way. I'm one of those that likes skin on when I do my hash brown, so I just leave it. But there's something you need to know about that. When you pull those potatoes out of a bag, they're going to look like this. They're still going to have some dirt on them. So give them a good scrub. Get them nice and clean so it's just down to the skin itself and it's not all dirty. All right? Now, to prepare modern style hash browns for cooking, you simply need to shred the potato, and a box grater is perfect for that. Now, I'm not going to shred all of this one right now because for this show, I just don't need it. Now guys, I have my burner on. We've shredded the potato. As this pan comes up in temperature, once it's good and hot, I'm going to put my butter in there. And that butter is going to immediately start melting. I'm not in any rush on that. I can go ahead and put the potatoes in right after. Now something I want to mention when you're cooking like this, always bring your pan up in temperature before you go adding any fat to it. Don't put oil or fat in a cold pan and then heat it. It's not a good thing to do, guys. Just don't do it, all right? Now you notice we have a little calcium buildup where I had that water in there. If you'll notice, the water took some time to sizzle off. That means the pan is not hot enough. If the pan was hot enough, we would see water skating around in the bottom of it. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. Now I'm going to start this over a medium to medium high flame. Let's put a little more water in here. Okay, see how it sizzled off quickly? That means the pan's getting hotter than it was before, but it's still not quite where I want it. Remember, we're looking for beads of water to skate around in the bottom. And when you get that effect, that's what they call the Leyden frost effect. And it means this pan, this surface, has come up in temperature hot enough that when water hits it, it forms an automatic vapor barrier in between the water and the pan, and that water droplet will just kind of float around on that vapor barrier. Again, that's Leyden frost, okay? And that's, of course, named after the scientists that discovered the effect. And you see we're starting to get that around the edges. See how it's skating in there and it's not sizzling off? There we go. Okay, that means that my pan has reached to the temperature I'm looking for, okay? That means I can go ahead, I can get my butter in here. Oh yeah. Let's have those potatoes ready. There we go. Now you don't want too thick a potato patty there. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting it in there and making sure that the whole layer is no more than about a ½ inch thick, which is just about perfect. Let's go ahead and take a spatula and I'm just going to shape it. So what I'm doing here is bringing this into a nice circle, a little round. We're going to let that sit there and cook until it browns. After all, it's hash brown, right? All right. Now, right at this point, I want to go ahead. I want to add some salt on the raw potato side. And the beautiful thing is that potato is going to take that salt in. Now guys, this has been cooking for about 3, maybe 4 minutes. It's starting to form into a bit of a patty. It's getting brown on bottom. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt turning this over. Now, a moment ago I had to free it up from the bottom of the skillet. It was a little bit stuck in the very center. Not a perfect turn, was it? But guess what? It's hash browns, it'll be fine. So we'll give it a little more time. Keep that heat on medium. All right, guys, I flipped this over again one time. This was the second side cooked. It's holding its shape well now, and it's all finished up, okay? So that is our first, the modern take on hash browns right there. Now let's go right into cutting this onion up so we can do it the way it was done back in 1955. Okay guys, now if you're one of those that was unfortunate enough never to see one of my onion cutting videos, you're in luck. Okay, so let's first start by taking off not the root end but the stem end. This is important. That root end has a tendency to weep the juices of the onion much faster than this end, and as you can see, it's already coming out quick. So what I want to do next, I want to remove this outer thin layer. We've already broken it. Sometimes I'll just cut right through it to get that off. And I'm going to give this onion a quick rinse to wash off that membrane. There we go. Just a quick rinse under cold water is all that needs. Now, pinch the blade, wrap the fingers around so you get good roll control. Keep those fingers curved under, and let's start at the top and just slice straight down on that onion and cut it in half, okay? By the way, there are some very world famous chefs that are going to teach you this exact same method on cutting an onion. Okay, so fingers on top together, period, not off to the side or anywhere else, right on top. Okay, blade facing away from you. Make some cross cuts. Okay, that cross cut on that onion, what that's doing is it's cutting through the side here so that the pieces that you cut off the side won't be long. All right, because if I just cut it this way and this way, we're going to get some really weird shaped pieces. But doing what I'm doing will give us some very even shaped pieces, all right? So you see what I've done there. I didn't cut all the way through the root. That's kind of handy because it helps to hold that onion together and keeps you just a little more safe. Now look at that, that went through. Oh darn, well guess what, I'll get over it. Now what we do next is, I don't take my blade all the way through. I bring that point back so that it doesn't cut through one of these cross pieces, and I make a downward cut right there. Boom. Go a little deeper right there, and again, and again, again, again. So that's the way you do your cuts this way. And so now we have our onion ready to give us the most perfect little dice, okay? And when you cross cut this, it's really cool because you get just the right size onion. And this is Dicing 101 on onion. There we have it. You end up with very little waste material. So what I want to do, I want to take that and just push it all aside. The onion is cut and it's ready to go in our pan. Now the potato. We need to cut our potato, but we need to be safe about it. We don't want it rolling around on us when we cut it. All right, so to make a potato safe to cut, go to one of the, not the narrow side, but the broad flat side, and just cut a little bit off of that. Okay, so you have a flat edge for the thing to set on. All right, next thing we're going to do, I'm going to make some cuts that are going to be approximately the width of squares that I'm going to want for my hash browns, and I'm looking for about 3/8 inch wide squares on my tater. Now these ends, I'm just going to set aside. I will deal with those in just a moment. What's left here, I'm going to divide. From the center part, I'm going to turn them face down with the cut facing the hand that I cut with. Okay, so we got a cut edge here, flat on the bottom. The thing's not going to roll around on me, and I'm going to get some beautiful dice. Okay, again, nice little cuts, 3/8 of an inch wide. And if you're not sure what 3/8 of an inch is, well, that's halfway between a 1/4 and a 1/2 inch, guys. So that easy. Next, the same thing, length of cut. I'm looking for about 3/8. And the idea on cutting like this is even cooking. If all of your pieces are random sizes and they're all kind of different, your cooking is not going to be as even, okay? It's all about even cooking. So these ends, these are easy to take care of now. Watch what we do here. That nice? If these are thin, I make them a little larger on the square, and that way the cook time will be a little, like I said earlier, a little more even. There we have it. So that way you can keep more of that skin-on potato in there if that's what you like. I'm into the skin-on tater. I like that kind of thing. Guys, we have all of our onion and that potato diced up. We're gonna need, come to Papa, there we go. You need a good sized pan, one that conducts heat evenly across the bottom. So get you a nice sized pan. This one's a 12-inch skillet, and we're gonna be doing all of our cooking in this one. I'm gonna preheat that pan again. Just as I showed you in the short version, you're gonna preheat your pan to the Leyden frost effect, to that temperature. Once we have the right temperature, then we can start our cooking. And this is important, guys. What this does is, A, it prevents degradation in the fat that you're using to cook with. Because if you slowly heat that fat up, there's a bit of a change. It goes through a chemical change. If you heat it up quickly, it doesn't change that much. All right, so how you treat your fat when cooking is very important. All right, making sure we don't overheat the pan is important, because if your fat smokes at any point, you need to stop your cooking and get rid of it, because you've got some dangerous chemicals developing in it, and you don't want that to happen. So never take your fat to a smoking point, but always have it hot enough to get you a good sizzle when you put your ingredients in there. That is important. Now, it's heating right now. I'm going to put this over a medium flame. There we go. Always, when you're using a gas stove, you want to check the flame with your eyes. What the knob says doesn't necessarily mean anything on a gas stove. So no matter how accurate they are, I've noticed all of them, you really need to look under the pan so you can know exactly what kind of flame you're using. Now guys, let's get these ingredients down in here and get busy cooking this up. Honestly, this is the best way I know of testing my pans. I've been cooking for decades, and folks, if I still do it this way after decades of work in the kitchen, you ought to consider this as a viable method of knowing when your pan is hot enough. Okay? Every stove is different on its heat output. Every pan heats in a different way and at a different speed. I have other pans with a much heavier clad base that take 4 to 5 times longer to heat than this, so I can't judge it by time. Okay guys, it's beginning to skate just a little bit. Now something I do want to mention is if you have water in the bottom of your pan that you are testing the temperature of the pan with and it's still skating in there, do not put oil in there, okay? Make sure that the water that you've put in there to test the pan is gone. You've removed it, or you towel dried it, poured it out, or whatever. Because remember, once you hit Leyden frost effect, it's going to dance in there for a while. It'll stay in that pan. Okay, now my temperature is going to be hot enough, because that last time it was beginning its Leyden frost effect temperature. So I've got my olive oil in there, and I get this beautiful aroma from the oil right off. It is just wonderful. So what I want to do is I want to take all of my onions and potatoes and just put them in there together. Now once I have that in there, if you'll notice there's a lot of material here. Number one, don't worry. That onion, a lot of it's going to cook down to small pieces, and it's going to provide such intense flavor. The potatoes will be turning brown and beautiful as they cook. We'll add a little salt here. We'll put some more oil over the top of this. There we go. Now it's a matter of getting this cooked down, and that's a matter of being patient, okay? When making hash browns, you have to give them time to brown. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to step away from this pan, and we're going to allow some caramelization to start happening here. What happens is, as caramelization occurs on the bottom of the pan, you get the stacking of carbons. That's what caramelization is. It causes some of the food particles to stick. That's normal even with all this oil and the good temperature. It just happens because we have so much starch here. The onion is just sugar. The potato is nothing but sugar. And so we're converting those sugars, we're breaking them down, and it's making this a little sweeter, but it sticks more and it caramelizes better. This is over a medium heat, and that's what we're going to cook it on, and we just give it time. When you go to turning this, some of it's going to be stuck to the bottom. Don't worry about that. Just use your spatula to scrape it off, turn it, and keep on cooking. That is part of the process. If you'll notice, we're starting to get that browning I was talking about. I've been stirring this about every 4 to 5 minutes. And you see the caramelization building up on the end of my spatula. Don't worry about that, guys. That's all a part of this, and it is a delicious part of it. So don't rob yourself of it. Guys, look at that. We are getting beautiful caramelization. Now I'm going to lightly hit this with salt, just a little bit, because remember we put some on it earlier. Now a light dash of black pepper. Now let's stir this thing again. Look at all those caramelized bits. That is exactly what we're looking for. And you see how it's starting to stick together a little? Dead on. It's all about the tater. Hash brown taters. Now you know these from the 1955 recipe. Oh God, that's so good. It's savory, just a kick of sweet in the background. Potatoes are fully cooked and soft. They're browned, delicious. And of course, this one, which is made more like a cake. And this is the more modern take. Buttery, potatoey goodness. Both of these are great. Both of them have their place. I just think it's sad that while one recipe seems to have been forgotten and the other is accepted, the other recipe is actually, in my book, a little better flavor. Guys, please give these a try. Fantastic way of doing hash browns, and they're fun either way you go. So easy to make recipes. Folks, thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today, for watching this episode. If you would, please click the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you would also, please click that like button. Drop some messages down below. Wonderful, I appreciate that. If you have a request, you'll be surprised. A lot of requests get granted on this show. I do a lot of dishes for people after they ask me for them. Thank you. Please have a good day. Bye-bye. Well, there it was, guys. Did that answer all of your questions on how to make that recipe? I certainly hope so. Hey, if you have any requests or questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the boxes down below. I do appreciate that, and I read those, believe it or not. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. Folks, please share my videos. And again, thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today.